Hello and welcome to the North Metro SBDC programming.
Welcome. My name is Raul Lopez, and I am the Assistant Director for the North Metro Denver Small Business Development Center. And we are bringing you today much anticipated talk with Ethan Day. He is a broker for a company that helps people to acquire businesses and sell businesses. And I'll let him explain a little bit more about that and introduce that in a moment here. But also, this webinar is brought to you by the City of Westminster Economic Development. Shelby Wood, who is instrumental in helping us to bring these types of things to all of you so that small business owners in the local area can benefit. If anyone is in the Westminster area, please feel free to reach out to Shelby Wood. And if there's anyone that would like her contact information, please just let me know. You can always reach out to me. So I've emailed, or I will be emailing everyone here in the next couple of days, the recording, a couple of resources that Ethan is providing for us today, including the PowerPoint course, and a couple other PDFs that are very helpful for understanding this concept and just giving you a little insight and something to look back on. If you could all just drop your 3 things in the chat, actually 4 things. Number 1, just put your name, first, last name. 2, your business name and type if you already have a business. If you don't have a business, just put that you're looking for one, either to start one or buy one, of course. 3, the city and zip code of your business if you already have a business, or just your city if you don't have a business yet. And then number 4, any questions you have about this topic. Let's just get some of the questions out there already, and that way we can skim them and have an idea of where we're at. So number 1, your name. 2, your business name and type, or I don't have a business yet. 3, where's your business located, city zip, or the city you live in. And 4, any questions you have around this topic. And as we go along, if any questions come up, feel free to drop them in the chat. Don't hesitate to ask any question. We want to get all the questions answered today, as much as possible. And if the chat is not your friend for whatever reason, I totally understand if you're driving or something like that and you prefer, you can just unmute yourself if you have a question at any time as well. Try to find a small little break in Ethan's talk to do so, and then we'll help you with that. I'll let Ethan know if there's any questions coming up in the chat and whatnot as well. So without further ado, let me hand it over to Mr. Ethan Day, and he can introduce a little bit more about what he does, the company he's with, and get into the talk here.
Well, thank you, Raul, first and foremost, for inviting me on. I love doing these because, small business ownership, entrepreneurship is a passion of mine. I live in Castle Rock, Colorado, so I'm here locally, and I've owned 2 businesses in this area, one in Aurora, one in Castle Rock, that I started from scratch and successfully exited at around a 3-time multiple. So before I ever got into being a business broker, I was a small business owner. Not huge businesses, but I do between 30 and 50K a month with partners. So you never take home what you think you're going to take home. It's always the expenses always rise as your success increases as well. And so really what brought me to the place I'm at now, and working for Peterson Acquisitions is that experience I had as a small business owner. So everyone's close to my heart that is running a small business, and also everyone that's looking to become a small business owner. I'd like to be a resource for you, to help you, and I'll you'll get my information, and I have a ton of resources because Peterson Acquisitions is we're a brokerage, but we don't consider ourselves salespeople. We're business advisors. We like to partner up with small business owners that are looking to sell now or in the next 2 years and help them structure a successful exit, a couple years down the road. Or if you want to sell right now, we would definitely take you along that path. And I can kind of today share a little bit about, you know, the business market out there for what's coming up over the next 10 years, how to approach finding a small business, vetting that business, and ultimately answer any questions that you guys have. But you know, one of my mentors is one of the best business people I've been around in this, and he started when he was in junior high, and I went to high school with him, but I watched him, develop landscaping companies, pushing mowers, and then when we were 18 years old and going into college or going into the Marine Corps or whatever everybody was doing, he sold his first business for $60,000. He was making $20,000 a year in high school with 4 employees, and it just kind of blew his mind. He was like, "Wow, I made $60,000 off a $20,000 income." And it sparked his curiosity to, over the next 30 years, 20 yeah, 30 years now, he's owned 8 or 9 companies, and he's basically treated these companies like an asset instead of like a lifetime job. And that's really the biggest thing that we try to help people understand is, yes, you could get into a small business and keep it for 40 years, and maybe your kids take it over and maybe your grandkids. But the reality is that these businesses, all the blood, sweat, and tears you put in, really what it comes down to is your cash flow. And really, if you look at the numbers, businesses aren't being handed down to relatives as much as they used to be. Kids don't want them. Kids want to be in these, influencer spaces, technology spaces, software spaces. And so, what you're looking at coming up over the next 10 years is you're looking at a wealth transfer like the world has never seen. Okay. There's 4.5 million firms in this country. Okay. And what you're seeing is a $10 trillion in value. And all of that's going to transition over the next decade. But only 20 to 30% of those businesses that are listed for sale are going to make it to the closing table. Um, my company, we kind of buck the trend a little bit because we close at about an 80% rate for seller listings that we take on. Okay, so I work all the time. I've got 2 deals that'll be closing before the end of the year. And I'm in the heat of battle with buyer seller negotiations. So I get all of the psychology and all of the angles from the buyer side, but I personally represent the seller side. So the first thing I'll tell you about going into a small business acquisition from the buy side, yes, it's great to have a broker, okay, but the broker is really more for the sales side, and I know a lot of brokers won't tell you that, but you can absolutely do the buy side by yourself, okay, with education. And the reason why is because 99% of buyers that are going to buy small businesses in America are going to do what? What's the common trend or tread or whatever you want to call it? What is the common thing that 99% of them all have in common? They're going to use debt service, right? And so they're going to go in and they're going to get pre-qualified from a bank after they identify a business, or they're going to get pre-qualified first. They're going to select a business, and then they are going to get debt service. And so the buyer's best friend, if you're not paying cash, is going to be the SBA or a major bank that's going to lend you money. Because trust me when I tell you, they're going to do more due diligence than any law firm or CPA. No offense to any lawyers or CPAs on here. You are definitely partners in this business, but you definitely don't help businesses get closed. The two things that kill acquisitions right dead in their tracks are engaging attorneys too quickly in the process and redlining the seller on all the documents and stretching it out. What do they say in business? Time kills all deals, right? So I have a process that we've laid out that leads to an 80% success rate and getting deals done and across the closing table. And it's really about third party neutral. These Main Street deals are 100% about win-win. It's marriages, not divorces. Do you understand? Like if you go into these, like I'm going to hammer the seller, I'm going to get a 1.5 time multiple, I'm going to lowball the offer. When they get 4 offers in and it's go time and they're about to accept one and go to the bank, they'll remember that lowball. The reason why you don't have to lowball in this, and I'll show you, is because everything is done using math. Okay, it's called debt service ratio calculations, and what it has to do with is, and I'm going to go over all this later. I'm just giving an overview, but what it has to do with is cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. When you come in as a buyer, it doesn't matter what industry you buy in. Pest control is great. You could buy in a law firm as long as you have a senior lawyer that's going to stay on. You're looking at what the owner's compensation is, and that's the seller's discretionary earnings. There's a couple metrics that go into that we'll go over, but you're looking at the SDE minus the cash flow. And I know this is very basic to some people on here, but it's important that we explain because this is a general buyer call, just to glaze over the general topics. Anyone on this webinar that wants more educational materials, more details, and you're more of a sophisticated buyer getting ready to expand your franchise or find another business, contact me offline. I'm not in the right now business. I don't charge fees up front. I get paid all in the back end. So I'll help you. And I don't get paid from buyers. I get paid from sellers. So I'm a resource that you can tap into that can help navigate that process for you. But to get back on track and just talk a little bit about the industry before we go into the process, 50 Forbes magazine said that 50% of the US GDP is small businesses, and 98% of the owners of those small businesses do not know the value of their companies. 70% have no transition plan. Okay, what you see on Biz Buy Sell in these different big marketplaces, that's about 4% of the people out there that have businesses or less, right? The businesses that are actually for sale at any time on the market. So if you can imagine, if you're a buyer and you've got a couple years before you really want to identify, one great way to do is just to network with businesses that you would like to own because they're probably never going to list for sale. Most small business owners, unfortunately, don't know what their business is worth. They don't think anybody wants it. What do you think they end up doing when they get to retirement age? Their kids don't want the business. They close the shop. And so there's so much meat left on the bone in this country for people like you guys out there, that, and myself included, because I'm in the market to buy a small business in 2025. But there's a lot of different ways to do it. And one way that I'll talk about that's not the best way for a seller, that I'll just briefly address because it's not a technical route, is a seller financing way. So it's just to walk into one of those businesses and say, hey, I can't get financed. I can't really get pre-approved by a bank. Would you finance this? Can I step into your place and pay you out of that owner's compensation? This is going to be the route that I tell you that I don't work with as a broker. Because generally speaking, you're only going to get seller financing, big seller financing, like the whole thing seller financed on a distressed business, right? A business that cash flows, the owner's looking to get that multiple. They're looking to exit probably quickly and move on. And so really, when you look at transition options for owners, about 30% of the time that they pass it down to their kids, or they pass it down to that first generation about 30% of the time. By the time the second generation comes down, only about 12% of those kids get these businesses. So most of these people have to sell or close their businesses. So when I was talking about that $10 trillion wave that's coming in, you're really going to see a ton of people enter the market. You're actually going to see something happen crazy in the next few years where you're going to see there's going to be way more sellers than buyers. Right now it's flipped. Okay, there's way more buyers out there than sellers. That's going to flip soon. And it's going to be a benefit to anyone who is working in a corporate job and wants to trade heaven for hell, so to speak, or hell for heaven is really what you think you're going to trade. But it depends on what you think you're going to get into with a small business, because it's not a situation where you're going to get in there right away and be owner absentee. Most of these businesses on Main Street are going to be businesses where you're going to have to pull your sleeves up and grind, and you're going to put a ton into it. But I feel personally like there's so many benefits to small business ownership. And so really, like you got these owners, and a lot of them are going to do nothing. They're going to kick the can down the road. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity to pick these businesses up. There's do you want to go through the slides, Raul, so we can just touch on some of these topics?
Yep, I'll get that up right now.
And is that the first slide?
Nope. There you go.
So my boss is Chad Peterson. He's if you put his name in Chat GPT, he's the number one business broker in the country, and he just does a really good job at being honest and hustling hard, and giving buyers and sellers a clear path to be in that 80 percentile to win, instead of that 20 percentile that most business brokers operate in. You can go to the next slide. Keep going, one more. Okay, so when you look at this right here, existing momentum in a team, buying a business that's already pre-existing as opposed to starting your own business. Everybody's heard that when you start your own business, how often does a business succeed after year one? Maybe 50% of businesses make it to year one, but what about year 10, 120 months in? You're talking about 1 in 10, you know what I mean? Maybe 0.5 in 10 businesses actually make it to the 10-year mark. Well, guess what? If you buy an existing small business in the SBA 7A program and the SBA pre-approves you, since the Eisenhower administration, there's been an over 80% success rate in 120-month loan fulfillment. That alone tells me right there that when you're buying momentum and a team behind you, instead of building your team, you go in and you meet some owners that have history in the community, have a great team and a great staff behind them, and they have a customer base, and they're not going to exit and leave you on your rear end right away. They're going to stick with you for about a year during the transition period. You are going to be in that 80+% success rate to make it all the way to the end of your loan. And so I really like buying a small existing business is cash flowing. I touched on this a little bit, but a lot of people that are looking to buy small businesses have the mentality like, I'm going to buy this business. This is going to be my last stop. We like to at Peterson, and what I did with my other businesses is I looked at them more like an investment. And I was looking to get in, let it sit for a year. One of the biggest mistakes people make when buying a small business is getting in and trying to grow in year one. You really want to get in year one, and you want to just ride it out and look from above down below. Do your best practices, but don't hire a bunch of people. I learned the hard way. I ramped up from $0 to $15,000 a month in sales with my last business. And then I ended up looking up at year 3, and I had $15,000 in employee payroll. You know what I mean? And I was doing 30 to 45 a month, but it was just too fast of a ramp up. If I could have kept my expenses down, I'd have had a lot higher exit multiple. So definitely you're going to see this in the literature that I provide, but look at buying a business like an investment. You're going to see, basically, we have a thing called QSI, and it's quantum stack investing, and I'll share a book with you guys on that. But it talks about stacking businesses. And so I'll touch on this briefly, but I want to tell you, like, if you go in and you decide you want to buy a business, you identify the business, you go in and you get pre-approved from a bank. What's going to happen is you're going to look um, into the financing, and you're going to find that probably the best route to go is the SBA 7A loan program. And the reason why is because they have an ability, a program where you can put 10% down, and the SBA will back that 90% deal. Well, as a buyer, what people don't know is you can actually get in for 5% down on most deals this year. It changes year to year. But let's say you have $1 million business, and I'll get into how a business is valued soon. But $1 million business is going to probably produce about a anywhere between $300 and $400,000 owner salary. Okay. That business you can get into for $50,000. $50,000 to create $350,000 in income. There's nothing like it in the United States, and it's one of the biggest drivers of social or like climbing the social ladder that I've ever seen in this country. And you know, you do have to qualify to get the loan, and they do pretty strenuous background checks on your credit and stuff. But you can take a seller note for 50 grand. Not you don't have to pay it back for until year 3. And so what you can do is with $50,000, you can get in on a 10-year loan for a $1 million business, paying you out between 300 and 400 grand. It's pretty incredible. And that's what I'm excited about, is finding the right business. And the book that I'm going to share with you guys after, you know, that you guys will have in the bag of goodies to take from this, goes through all of that, and it'll help you and use as a reference. But that's what I call with the QSI approach. What we do is we take that concept and we identify a business. We go in and we'll keep a business for 3 to 5 years. So if we go in and we buy $1 million business, we don't touch it year 1. Year 2 and year 3, we look to grow the business incrementally. And let's say you grow it up to $1.5 million, okay, in value. Well, then when you turn around and sell it for 1.5, you know, you know, whatever is left in your loan, let's just say you spent $50,000 to get that loan. And let's say you sell it for 1.5 and you keep the difference of 500,000, whatever it is. Well, now what can you do with the 10% down there with 500,000? You see what I'm saying? You can get into a $5 million business that has a 2 million or $1.5 million salary. Maybe that's too much responsibility, but you know what the truth of the matter is, in seeing thousands of businesses, running a business that's $1 million or $5 million or $500,000 is not that much different. The bigger business is actually you have more money to pay not smarter, but smart employees, and they generally will run even easier than a $300,000 or $500,000 business. You're buying a bigger customer base, more cash flow, and in the industry, they're hotter in the industry. So that's what QSI is. And I can go into that more on the side, but that's how you stack businesses to increase your wealth and your net worth and how much you get paid. Can you go to the next slide, please? I mean, this is just what I was just talking about. Historical aspect, when you buy versus startup or franchise. And I just helped a men's health clinic last year. Not only 3 years ago, I helped them get started, and I helped them open their second location last year, but I also helped them find a private equity group, and they're doing an 8-time exit. And so I understand a lot about, you know, starting a franchise. And these guys were really talented business people. I've seen so many franchises, though. I get calls every day. Hey, I'm underwater. Can you sell my franchise? And I'm like, I sell cash flows. What I sell, man. I don't sell blood, sweat, tears, and logos. And I don't mean that to be a smart aleck. I'm just saying buyers don't buy your blood, sweat, and tears. They don't buy how cool your company is. They literally buy your owner's compensation versus minus your debt service if you're a seller. And that's what I want you guys to understand is that's what you're buying. I mean, yeah, you can buy a job, but I just don't look at it like that. I do look to buy a job for year one, but there's a thing called the passion cycle. Okay. And the passion cycle is pretty real. And it happened to me. I opened a business that had everything to do with my passion in life, my love in life. And I swear to you, after 5 years, I hated it. I didn't want to do it ever again. And I wanted to exit. And that's what we see is a thing called the passion cycle. And it's about 3 to 5 years. You go and you're elated, you love your business, you're making money. And there's something we say in the brokerage, the business brokerage industry, where there's no passion, there's no profits. And so what we see is that you go through this elation to passion and then to mediocrity or boredom and then burnout. What do you think happens after burnout happens? Have you been around these business owners out there who are burnt out? How does that make you feel in their business? You know what I can guarantee you? That if you go in there and you're dealing with a burnout owner, you know what you're going to see? It's going to be reflected in the financials every time. You'll see it. The financials will have dropped off like that the second that their passion goes out. And that's why we're so big on looking at a small business like an investment, getting in year one, doing your thing, shoot for the stars year 2 through 5, and then exit on top. The best time to sell is when? It's when you're doing well. Everybody out there, I'm telling you, I get leads every day. I mean, my company does crazy leads, like we do thousands a year. I mean, our budget is hundreds of thousands of dollars to get new seller leads. And 99% of the businesses I see are unsellable. And I'm talking they do 1 million plus in gross. You know what their SD is, their seller's discretionary income? A lot of times it's minus. I had a lady from Arizona wanting me to sell her electrical contracting company. I said, your business is worth minus $775,000, ma'am. Well, how can that be? I made 1,500,000. Yeah, your expenses were 2.2. You get what I'm saying? That's what people are not buying your customer list. They're not buying your inventory. Inventory is a whole nother sale. And that is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about cash flow. Could you go to the next slide? Career transition. A lot of you that are looking to buy small businesses are, working in corporate America, or you're in school and you're looking to possibly take that corporate job or to, start your own small business or buy a small business. One of the great things about buying a pre-existing small business is that it's the fastest way to replace income. Day one, it's owner salary minus the debt service. That's what you make. So how do we know what an owner makes looking at the tax returns? So when you're a small business or buying a small business, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to go out there and you're going to figure out how much can I afford. I touched on that a little bit, but I'll tell you, basically what you're going to be able to afford is, obviously based on your credit a little bit, but it's also based on down payment. So the down payment on an SBA 7A deal, which those are under $5 million, okay, deals under $5 million. The SBA has a program called the 7A program, and it allows you to put 10% down and purchase a business. So like we talked about in the prior example, $1 million business is going to be $100,000 down payment. If you have 50,000, if you have half of the 10%, you can still get a deal done. You'll have to have better credit and so on and so forth. There's a couple little nuances that a lot of people don't know that you do need to know up front. Number one is, if you're only going to want to put 5% down and have the seller finance 5, you'll have to have pretty good credit. If your credit is a little bit lacking, you're going to have to come with more money down, 20 to 30%, and on a non-traditional loan or a non-SBA 7A. It'll still be a small business loan, but it'll be probably 20 to 30% down. So just keep that in mind. If you don't qualify for the SBA 7A because of bad credit doesn't mean you can't get into a small business. It just means you're going to have to put more down. But the fastest way to replace your income is going to be one of acquiring a pre-existing small business. The down payment predictably is going to be 10% of the sale price is what they'll do. And like I said, even good businesses understand that banks these days love seller financing. Generally speaking, seller financing will be 5%. And I don't see a lot of times it more than that unless the buyer really needs it for a cash infusion or cash injection or something along those lines. Can you go to the next slide, Raul?
Yeah, actually, I have a question, Ethan.
Yeah,
So, talking about you're getting a business, sounds like, it's going to be a lot of work when you enter the new business.
that's correct.
Uh, do you typically see like people go, I'm not doing anything else. I'm quitting my job and I'm focusing on this, or I'm letting my other business be run by the manager or whatever, and I'm focusing solely on this? Or do you think you can manage more than one thing at a time? What's your
That's a
take?
great that's a great question. And that a lot of times the multiple will tell you the story. So what I mean by that is um a lot of times if it's an owner absentee business, meaning you're going to buy a business and you don't want to work in it because the owner is older, he's put in all the work and he has a great staff. Okay, that's going to be a business that has a higher multiple because you're coming in and it's an investment. It's not a job, right? I'll give you an example of a job. A plumber that's the only master plumber. His wife runs the books. He has a great customer list, great phone number. The phone number rings off the hook, and he's got a great client list. He agrees to stay on board for a year to transition the new plumber coming in, so that new plumber can meet the customers and possibly make another hire. That's a job. That's going to be closer to a 1.5 to 2 time multiple of the cash flow. So let me break down what constitutes cash flow really quick, because then that will make it'll kind of give you an answer to your question. Cash flow is the owner's compensation, the net income, so total gross sales minus total overall expenses is your net income. Then you're going to have your owner's compensation, that's officer salary, not the total employee. And then what you're going to do is you're going to have what they call add backs. And add backs are going to be big one-time expenses that that's not typical. It's going to be insurance, personal insurance, so expenses for the owner's benefit that are going to leave with him. He has a truck that's not a work truck, 2024 F-150. That will probably be something that you can count as salary in the cash flow, because you're gonna take that number, you're gonna do the SDE, you're gonna do net income plus owner's compensation plus add backs, and that's gonna equal your seller's discretionary earning. Now, if you have a business where the owner he's selling a job, he's selling, you've got to roll your sleeves up, you got to put 60 hours a week in there, you're going to be looking at a 2 to 3 time multiple. Okay. Manufacturing, where you just plug and play, all the machines do the work, you're talking about a 5 to 10 time or 5 time multiple. Software company, 10 time multiple. Do you see what I'm saying? But we're not talking about that stuff here. What we're talking about is Main Street, plumbers, electricians, personal training studios, med spas, you know, any type of business that's retail, any type of business that's home services. I love home services. If you guys are looking to get into a business and um, kind of not be the technician and just be the entrepreneur, home services are great because you could buy let's say a pest control company that has 4 techs, and you could do the books and you can go out and shake the owner's hands, but not be out in the field. That's a tip, an industry you wouldn't think about. That's a pretty good job that can pay you, and you don't have to have an office. The people can drive their own trucks, so your expenses are down, and then you make all your money in 6 months. It's a seasonal job with a year-long salary for 6 months. So then your employees are 1099. So it's just you can think about all these avenues, but to answer your question, yes, I'd like to tell everybody on this webinar that when you're buying Main Street, you're going to need to, if you don't know, if it's not basically an owner absentee job, and you'll need to talk about that in the buyer seller meetings. Hey, really, really, no kidding, Mr. Seller. Give me the skinny. Like, what's your hours? What's your family life like? Hey, really, no kidding. How much cash do you do off the books? Like, I'm not a government agent. Tell me. I want to know exactly what I'm getting into here. Every business is like a Christmas tree, and the owners are going to turn that nice side to the world. Don't be afraid as a buyer to buy a Christmas tree with some spots. That's actually where you're going to have opportunity to really take the business and take it somewhere the owner can't with their burnout and boredom or their limited budget or their limited marketing skills. And you'll get some really great businesses that haven't updated software, haven't done this, haven't done that. I've got a door company in New Jersey right now. I'm selling 1 point, it'll go for $1 million. They haven't updated anything since 1990. Their software, their sales, it's going to cost them about $200,000. Okay. But I tell the buyer's full of fear. Here's another thing, like buyers emotionally are full of fear. You got to understand the psychology in this stuff. And you've got to master your own fear and understand that none of these businesses are going to be perfect. Okay. Where there's opportunity, you're going to get a discount. And that's where you're going to be able to maximize cash flow. You just got to make sure that the fundamentals are right. You know what I mean? Like that their cash flow is good, that they've been in business a while, that they have a good lease in place, or just those types of things, so you don't get caught off guard. But yeah, sorry if I went off topic there a little bit, Raul. Can you bring me back in, like you were saying?
No, yeah, and that was good. I think it's actually a good transition to this slide, is because if you're gonna have to take on a certain role in the new business, depending on the level of work required, how like you were saying, the multiple,
Mhm.
then you're gonna think, okay, well, what do I have to do to achieve that level and rise to the
Yeah,
occasion? Yeah.
yeah, and I think that you need to look at it as you need to come in and learn how to be a technician at first, but with an entrepreneurial mindset. What is your 2 to 3 year plan to like be in the business Monday, Wednesday, Friday? But the first 12 to 18 months on Main Street, if it's not already owner absentee, you need to look at pulling your sleeves up, being mentored, meeting all the vendors, meeting all of the main customers and clients, and really like becoming the face of the business. And this is not going to be something like, it'll be the hardest thing you've ever done in business. As a broker, I have to coach myself daily, and I tell myself, this is going to happen. Want versus don't want. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. I'm not going to focus my mind on the scenarios that I don't want. And I know that's foo-foo manifestation type talk, but it is very, very important with the unknown and for your mental thing, because you got to approach this stuff mentally tough, because you're going to be full of fear. I'm going to take this business over. I'm going to drive the car off the lot. What's going to happen? The engine's going to fall out. That's what every buyer thinks about when they're buying a business, but it's just not the case with these SBA 7A. The bank vets these deals. They vet the culture of the business. They vet the employees. They vet the owners. They don't really look at the owner's finances. They look at their business cash flow. And so you're buying a well-oiled machine that might just need a tune-up. You know what I mean? And that's what I like to look at it. But you're going to have to develop as a leader. You're going to have to study. And you find an owner that is concerned about legacy, because that's going to be the person that sticks with you after the transition, that teaches you the things that you need to know. And they're going to be available for several years on the phone anytime you need to call them. You know what I mean? You want to go to the next slide? Keep going. Keep going. Sorry, this is a buyer's course that just has some bullet points that I'll share with everybody. Remember, think about when you're going to buy a business, and this has to do with this has to do with your personality and what you want to do and what you see yourself doing. Because I personally don't care what business I buy next year when I buy a business. I'm going to buy cash flow, and I'm going to buy a business that matches what I want to do in life. I've got a buyer right now for that door company, full of fear. He's going to have to drive an hour. It's in New Jersey. That's a normal drive, but he's got two little kids. And he knows, I told him straight up because I'm a good broker and I don't BS people. I'm like, in 18 months, you could work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 hours a day, see your kids, be the best dad in the world, and make $250,000 after debt service. For 18 months, you need to be there at 8 a.m. You're going to leave at 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Okay, that's just the bottom line. And this is, you're going to pull your sleeves up. You're going to learn how to speak door, and you are going to be a, just a sponge to the owners because they're the experts in North Jersey on this industry. You need to meet the vendors. You need to, not change everything. I would say upgrade the technology, upgrade the sales room floor, the business, redo the lease as part of the. That's the other thing is the SBA is going to make you, take on a lease that's going to last the full time of the deal. But one of the things about that, not to be off topic, but this is something we wouldn't normally cover. When you do buy a business, you'll take over the building. More than likely, you won't buy it. You'll take over the lease. The cool thing about that is there's a little trick. You can do a 1 year lease, 2 year lease, 3 year lease. But remember, I said there's a 10-year term. The SBA is going to require you to hold that lease to get 10 years on the lease. So you do it like this: you take a 1 year lease, and you do 10 or 9 1 year options after, and they'll accept that. So you don't have to worry about all the lease stuff. This is way down the road. The little minutia and details are way down the road. What you're doing at first is you are identifying a business, you are vetting the cash flow. Okay, you're looking, and this is where a broker could come in. You can have your CPA, your accountant do it, but a business broker will probably do it for free, a good one. And what they'll do is they'll take 3 years of financials. Okay, 3 years of the business tax returns with 3 years of the P&L and balance sheet, current balance sheet, and some basic information about the business, employees, industry, and all of that. And what we're going to do is we're going to recast the cash flow. We're going to basically spread the document out over an Excel spreadsheet, and I'll share an Excel spreadsheet. Raul will send one out, and that you can kind of see what an example of cash flow is with some. I'll redact the tax returns so you can look, and I'll give you a little tutorial on how to spread deals and stuff. If you want to reach out to me, I can teach you how to do that. Because remember, I'm not trying to get your business as buyers. I just want to educate you. I represent sellers, but I can help you. I can help you find the right business. But what you're going to do is you're going to vet the deal financially. Once you like it, you're going to have a meeting with the buyer seller on Zoom, and you guys are going to talk about it. You're going to talk about terms. You're going to talk about roles. You're going to talk about interest level. From there, after that Zoom call, that's when you put in an offer to purchase. Some people say letter of intent. Both can get a deal done. Offer to purchase will actually benefit you as a buyer because you're going to put earnest money down, and you're going to ask that buyer to put you in the principal position and not accept any other offers, and give you the opportunity to get this deal vetted at the bank, get into underwriting, and let you be the exclusive buyer. If you just do an LOI, there's no teeth in the deal. There's no earnest money down. The deal can fall right out in front of you. And the Harvard Business Review, How to Buy a Business, CPAs, attorneys, I'm telling you, don't take my word for it. And if you're from high education and you come through in a with a CPA background, you're going to have your own opinions. But I will tell you, I've had 4 deals fall through this year where the buyer came up front and he goes, I'm going to pay this CPA $30,000 to vet the deal and do a quality earnings and all that. This advisor, the advisor was a Harvard grad, and the seller fired him. Too much upfront due diligence. No one's going to lock in a deal for 90 days with exclusivity without earnest money, without some kind of commitment. And so that's the difference in an LOI and an offer to purchase. An offer to purchase has teeth. And the teeth actually could benefit the buyer because then you don't lose a great business while you're financially vetting the deal. So once you make an offer and you go to offer to purchase, what's going to happen is you are going to, at that point, you are going to go to the bank and you're going to get pre-qualified. The pre-qual is going to come in, and the business broker for the seller side, generally speaking, the seller will have a business broker. That's how you found the deal. You looked on Biz Buy Sell, you saw the listing, you contacted the broker. They had you sign an NDA and fill out a personal financial statement. Okay. Once they saw that you were serious, they'll send you over what they call the confidential business review, or the CIM, confidential. There's a lot of different abbreviations for that, but we call it the CBR, confidential business review. This is going to be an 8 to 10 page report on the business, and these reports have great info. From there, if you like that CBR, you will ask for the full financial package. Okay, that's where they're going to send you the 3 years of returns, the 3 years of the P&L. Once you look over that, you'll make your offer. You'll go to the bank, and I'm going to tell you, be very careful, buyers. Really, really, no kidding. If you want to buy a business, be very careful with the bank you choose. These banks like Bank of America and Wells Fargo, and everybody says they do SBA, but remember, they only have so much SBA money on the books, and if you're doing it at the wrong time of year, they'll say they're doing it. You'll get down to week 10, they will pull the deal out from under you. You'll have to find another bank. There's such a thing called seller fatigue. Okay, so basically, what's going to happen is you're going to kill your deal up by not using the right bank. Now, here's where using a business broker is smart. Business brokers that are good, we don't get paid to market. We don't get paid to find you a buyer. Buyers are like pennies. Okay. When a buyer puts in an offer and puts earnest money down, they become like platinum. Okay, they become very important. And so business broker is going to have relationships with SBA lenders lending out deals and third-party attorneys. So once you get pre-approved by this SBA lender, then at that point you go and you're in person meeting on location, sometimes after hours because they haven't told their employees, right? Sometimes during, and everybody's a part of it. But that's when you're going to go with the broker, the buyer, seller, and you guys are going to write out a third-party contract called the asset purchase agreement. That's going to outline how long of a training and transition period you're going to get, the transfer of inventory assets, and all of that. The good things, the lease is going to get determined in that, and it's going to move you into the final underwriting. And the underwriter is going to send over a ton of questions. It's going to be painful. But once you pass the final underwriting and you've satisfied all of the requirements from the underwriter, you'll be clear to close in about 10 days from there. Right now, typical process from the time that you sign an offer to purchase and it's accepted by the seller, it's about 10 weeks to 12 weeks to close. It happens sooner, but things come up, right? And it takes, a lot of it is just waiting on documents to come in from wherever. And but it takes about 10 to 12 weeks. The average time to sell a business from the time that the seller lists, they would contact a business broker, we would sign an engagement agreement, contact a marketing company, get a blind ad put on Biz Buy Sell, get a confidential business review, 8 pages about the company and industry and people. From the time that we get all that done and the post goes live, the listing goes live on all of the marketplaces, it's between 6 and 12 months to close. That's why basically what you're looking at is a contract with a business broker is generally going to be 12 months. A good business broker will get a backup offer also behind that offer that they have. So that's really the general process for the seller and for the buyer. So let's go into the chat. Did you have anything, Raul, before so I'm kind of just winging it, but
Yeah,
like
that
honestly, just want to give
no,
general information.
that's a really good overview. I'm thinking we might need a part two, get a little bit more into the weeds a little bit. But
Yeah, and I apologize for just kind of winging it and talking. I'm in like right now, I'm in the heat of battle with my year because I do most of my business between September and December. So yeah, I absolutely would help anybody offline and do another one of these. And I have a lot of other stuff. But yeah, let's get in the chat so we can answer
Yeah,
people's
there's a few
questions.
questions that have come up. So Tree just wants to know, do I need to be currently working with salary to buy a business?
How much literally the down payment is going to be? That's a great question. Let me research that a little bit because I have all kinds of buyers. Like I'll give you an example. I have a buyer I'm working with right now, not employed. He has the down payment, but this is a high net worth individual. And so most of the people I'm working with that don't have a job currently, they're looking to replace their job. They want to pull their sleeves up, get into a business. They've got 50 to 100 down to put on this $1 million business. So no, you don't. The bank knows that you might not have a job. That's why you're looking to buy. Your prior work experience will count. What you bring to the table, like your industry experience and your down payment. But I'll look into that on, for you on an individual basis if you'd like to contact me offline. And we can go to my bank and get you a pre-qual letter, see what you could actually qualify to purchase. That's something I'd be happy to do for everybody on here. So
Yeah, and
Thanks, Ethan.
I want to highlight that real quick, what you just said, Ethan, because the pre-qual idea, think of it like if you're going to buy a house, right? So you might just be searching, looking around, but you need to go to a mortgage lender and get pre-qualified, right? And they're going to ask you for some information about last couple of years of income, things like that. That might be what they ask might be different than buying a business. I'm not really sure, to be honest. But the process of getting pre-qualified, so like this is how much house I can afford. This is what my rate will be more or less. This is what how much I probably need to put down, and it gives you a really good ballpark of what the skin in the game that you're going to get into and what you can actually access as far as
absolutely,
that goes, right?
absolutely. Doing that pre-work, like finding out what you actually could qualify for, um, is super important because you may be surprised how much business you can buy with very little money.
And you don't really need to. There's nothing that you have to give on the front end to get pre-qualified, right? It's just a couple of documents, maybe some information or something like that.
And the good business brokers don't charge up front. You're gonna run into all these business brokers and they're gonna go $30,000 to find you a deal, $30,000 to sell your business. They may take that 30 and you hear from them 3 times in the year and then the contract runs out.
Oof.
I'm confident to only get paid at the end because I'm not going to take you on as a client if you're not serious and I can't sell your business. I'd rather have it that way. Then I can fire you. You know what I mean?
Trey, did that answer your question, or do you have more to add to that?
I have more after that. So
Yeah, cool.
let's continue without a question. I will be last. I don't want to waste my time. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Yes,
hear
sir.
you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Ask whatever question you got there.
Okay. Well, I've been looking for a business, a computer software business to buy, but I really don't see any out there, and maybe I didn't come to the right website to look for it. And can you direct me that?
Well, I mean, Biz Buy sells the big marketplace. If you could send me a message offline, I'll do a little research for you and find out what professional organizations that software
Yeah.
companies, a lot of times they'll have businesses listed on professional networking sites. Like, for example, I have a client that's a plastic surgeon and they have a newsletter and they have an association where sometimes you'll see they're kind of reluctant to put their listing up, these high end people, because it's obviously such a limited pool of buyers, right? That's going to buy a law
Okay.
firm. Biz Buy Sell is obviously the big marketplace. I'm sure everyone knows about Biz Buy Sell, LoopNet, all of these types of sites. But I get on. I'm yet to I find businesses all the time on Biz Buy Sell. I like my businesses that I'm selling are up on Biz Buy Sell. But at the same time, remember what I told you at the beginning: 4% of U.S. businesses that are out there are for sale at any given time, and that number may be high. You're going to have to pick up the phone and call companies, or pay a broker or find a broker to do it. And I cold call every day. I basically I'll get off the phone here and I'm going to make 5 calls to Southern California plastic surgeons for my client, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to go, hey, This is Ethan. I'm a small business owner. I'm not a salesman. I just wanted to, talk to the owner or talk to the decision maker about a business proposal I have. Can you take my number down and just have them give me a call when they have free time or send me through to voicemail? And something as easy as that. And then you get the business owner on the phone and you go, hey, have you thought about selling now or in the next 18 months? I really like your business. Congratulations. You built a hell of a business. Would you be interested in selling your business to me? I mean, that sounds forward and people are going to hang up on you. They're going to cuss you out. But I'm telling you, there's the 96% of the businesses are that way. And that's the tough way, right? That's nobody's going to tell you that. Everybody's going to say, get online, pay money, do a search. You got to do both.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then Miriam is asking, what about franchises?
That's not my specialty, but I did help a franchise get started. Franchises are going to be, what I don't like about franchises is that the percentages that you pay like at the beginning, because let's just say that you have a franchise that's a men's health clinic and very successful flagship model that's franchising out. Okay. You go in, you get your lease, you do your build out, right? Cost you $100,000 to build the space out. Then you pay your $50,000 franchise fee. Then you buy $50,000 worth of inventory. And then it's going to take you a year to a year and a half to break even. The whole time you're making money, they're taking 7%. Not a bad look. Is it a way to be successful? Because yes, I mean, you're aligning yourself with a product that's known, processes. I mean, product processes and placement, like where your location is, who you work with, and what you're selling and how you're selling it are all very important. And I think that franchises will really, really put you on top of good business practices, a good name brand. And but I don't like it because you're not inheriting cash flow. A pre-existing small business you're buying, the advantage over a franchise is a proven entity at that location. It already has staff that are trustworthy, and you go in day one paying your debt service off. Whereas with a franchise, now you're going to have this $200,000 or $300,000 loan, which is less than if you buy a business, $1 million business. But I have resources to share with you. Like one of my cousin just bought a franchise, and he is not a sales. If you are a franchise, you want a franchise. Okay, one thing I'll tell you, you need to be a strong operator and salesperson. If you think you're going to go in there and just be an entrepreneur, my God, you better be careful. If you have strong work ethic, you're going to really wear that McDonald's logo, so to speak, and that's who you are. You're the McDonald's guy in town, and you're going to be there like Ray Kroc selling burgers. You're going to win. But if you're timid, you're not sales, you don't have, you're not used to leading a staff. You don't have the sales chops. You could get really underwater quick. I've got a guy just called me last Friday, like a battery franchise, and I get calls all the time from franchise people that just want to sell for what they put in it. He's like, just get me my 250 back. I don't even care. I'm bleeding money. And they all have corporate jobs over here, and they think that they're going to have their corporate job and they're going to do like Kobe Bryant did, or like Shaq does. And Peyton Manning is a better example for local. Owns 20 McDonald's, 10 Chick-fil-A's. He has the money to put that operator in, the guy that's got the chops. He's not, Peyton Manning's not. That's what owner absentee looks like. Owner absentee has to have big money to float things. If you want to pull your sleeves up, come the face of that franchise in your market, I think you could be successful. But you're looking at, 150 to 250,000 on the average. They'll all say 30 to 50,000 entry. That's just to pay them to get them to give you the rights. Now you got build out, you got inventory, and you got royalties off of your gross sales. That's the only reason why I wouldn't do a franchise over a existing business.
Good perspective. We got one more question here, I think, and it's Kevin. He's asking, do you have any resources or tips for comparing competing businesses in the same area? And then does that affect the loan eligibility, or is it all about the numbers?
So if I'm hearing that right, is there like if you're looking at two competing businesses for sale, is there a way to compare them? I mean, you can say like you could get a quality of earnings done or something like that. Those are pretty expensive. What I would do personally when I'm looking at and anybody that's got to go at one, thank you so much. Hit me up on the back end and I'll answer any questions and hopefully I'll meet you again on here. But um, you know, to compare businesses, I just want to remind you cash flow, cash flow, cash flow, owner, and then owner involvement. I would really, really, really vet the financials deeply. And I'm talking like absolutely do the numbers, know exactly what your SDE is. And then what does the owner have to do to make that SDE? You're going to have some people over here that are 5 hours a day and they're a 2 minute drive from work. And then you're going to have some people that are a 2 hour drive from work and they're working 10 hours a day. Quality of life. And another thing about owning a small business, I'm going to tell you guys from firsthand, if it's too far away from home, it's going to be a problem. When employees don't show up, when there's a leak or the bathroom doesn't work, the toilet doesn't work, or the signs out front, or the key's not working, living 2 miles from the business is a blessing. Whereas if you have to drive 45 minutes to an hour and a half, it's going to be a source of stress for you. I can promise you those first few years. So I would look at those types of things, quality of life and earnings when I'm comparing. As far as like the minute details, it doesn't matter what industry it is. Like it doesn't matter, you want to have a good staff in place, you want to have good cash flow, and you want it to be as close to where you live as possible.
Yeah, thank you, Ethan. That's all the questions. Is anyone have any other questions? Doesn't seem like it. Well, if anything does come up, I'll be sending out an email with the recording, some freebies, little PDFs that are going to help give you some more information from Ethan and his contact information. Feel free to reach out to him. Also, SBDC, we do have tons of resources around succession planning. We're creating, we have a program in place, but we're creating something that's really trying to build businesses so they can exit properly when they're ready to do so. So we're not going to be the broker. We're not going to facilitate any of that. Someone like Ethan would still be very helpful in that situation. But we're trying to prepare businesses and build them so that they can actually hand the reins over properly and make a little bit of money for themselves at the same time. So we're looking to do this a lot more in the next couple of years, prepare businesses in a local area for you guys that are interested in buying businesses. And if there's any other questions about that, just feel free to reach out to Ethan or myself. And thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, thank you. And Raul, that's where my specialty is. My specialty is helping business owners sell and prepare for the exit. So this is a buyer call, and I hope everybody got something out of it. And feel free to reach out to me if you need information. I've got a ton of educational materials I'd be happy to share with you.
Yeah, real quick, guys, can you just put in the chat like a 1 if you got some value today? Robert, you already said thank you. I know you got some. Kevin, 1. We got 1. Who else? Come on, give some love here for Ethan here, guys, because I know that was true. I was illuminated there on so many things myself. So yeah,
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Value. All right, thank you, Ethan. Take care, everyone. We'll see you later. Take care.
Okay, guys. Appreciate you.